A lot has already been said about the importance of the waters of Indus basin, but let me tell you that it's the world's largest contiguous irrigation network in South Asia, and which is primarily located in Pakistan. For Pakistan, needless to say, it is a complete civilizational ecosystem that supports the country's agriculture, economy, energy requirements, and broadly the larger sustainability. It is an ecosystem within which Pakistan lives and thrives. Hence, any intention of taking Pakistan's waters or any measures that are taken is a very, very serious threat to Pakistan's national security, and it constitutes the most vital national interest for us. Enough has already been said about it, but I will now take you. The origins of the treaty is April again. Like in April 2025, India illegally, immorally held the treaty in abeyance and is still doing it. India illegally, immorally held the treaty in abeyance and is still doing it. It was April 1948 when India for the first time stopped Pakistan's waters. The eastern rivers had some headworks which were feeding into the canals which were irrigating lands in Punjab. That water was stopped. And that was the trigger point from where the discourse and the discussion started, that an upper riparian cannot and should not do it. And it took 10 long years of negotiations. And it was negotiated under the auspices of international experts and the World Bank, fundamentally the World Bank, and in 1960 the treaty was signed in Karachi. And this treaty became a gold standard. This treaty even today is a gold standard. It is a treaty which was designed actually to prevent another layer of very serious conflict between the two countries. It was a treaty which was designed to protect a civilization. And it was a treaty which actually, somebody said it in the first session, it was a bargain between the eastern rivers and the western rivers. And the eastern rivers were given completely to India, and for right or wrong reasons, but that's how the treaty stands. So now the intention seems to have completely changed. We'll talk about it a little more. I'll just briefly, can you run the, there are basically 12 articles of the treaty. One, first of course, is the definitions, and second is the eastern rivers, which are all with India. The western rivers, which is the main question, it allots western rivers to Pakistan. India is allowed restricted use of water under strict limits. We'll talk about it, because we have to be real. We're in a real situation here. And then the replacement works, Pakistan was to build the replacement works for the eastern river canals. The eastern river canals were not being fed now from the eastern rivers, that is Ravi, Beas and Satluj. They were to be fed from the western rivers, and the link canals and the headworks and the entire system was created after this treaty was done. And a lot of financial help and support came from all over the world. And let me also tell you, at that time, let's not take everything away from what Mr. Modi is doing from the previous Indian administrations, because they upheld the treaty. Under difficult situations also, the treaty was upheld. So Indians also paid for replacement works, which was part of the treaty, apart from others. The financial provisions we have already talked about, fund replacement works in Pakistan. This was done by the World Bank, this is done by the United States, this is done by India also. And exchange of data, it has been violated. This is the first serious violation which has started a long time back. And this is a very serious question. Next, please. Permanent Indus Water Commission, they were to meet on a yearly basis. This is the main place where they were to talk to each other and resolve issues which used to come up on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. This is not happening. This is a serious violation of the treaty. It has not happened in May 2020 or April 2020. It was happening before that time. So the intention was very clear from the Indian side, or the malintention, so to say. So dispute settlement, it's a three-layered process. It has already been explained. First, it is to be negotiated by the Indus Water Commissions. If there's a problem, it is to be taken to the technical problem, neutral experts, and if the legal advice is to be taken, then the court of arbitration. India has run out from there as well, because they don't have a legal ground to stand on. Emergency provisions, those have already exhausted. That time is gone. That was to be done in 1965. And the general provisions, this is a very important provision. It does not impinge upon any territorial claims, because the waters that come to Pakistan emanate from China in the Tibetan plain, run through Indian-occupied Kashmir, which is a disputed territory. So by a very serious legal definition, India is not an upper riparian, and then they enter Pakistan from there. Obviously, that provision is a very important provision which we cannot ignore, and this is very important thing which, once somebody holds a treaty in abeyance or abrogates the treaty, would mean something more for Pakistan than just the waters. Final provision, of course, is a treaty cannot be modified without mutual agreement, and that India has already done. So, in my opinion, the treaty has been violated grossly. And it is one of the most serious national security threats that Pakistan has faced since its inception. Next, please. Now, this is what IWT allows to India. It allows domestic use of water on the western rivers. It allows non-consumptive use, that the water cannot be consumed beyond a certain limit. Hydropower generation through run-of-the-river projects with specific design constraints, which means India should not develop a system by which it can regulate the flow of waters according to its will and wish. That is the fundamental argument in this. And then IWT caps the cumulative storage of water over 3 western rivers, and this is 3.6 million acre-feet of water. And this is important to note. And while Chenab, IWT allows 1.7 million acre-feet of storage without disrupting the flows of waters. That is the caveat. So basically, the restrictions were designed to prevent India to manipulate the river flows against Pakistan. India is violating this. Consistently, it is moving in the direction where it can gain control over the flows. Next, please. Then the strategic rupture took place. It was happening by design. That was going on for quite some time. India used the statements you have already heard from various Indian ministers and the Prime Minister in the Indian intent of going away from the treaty. It was basically part of a strategy that India has adopted for the last 10 years. Let's not be mistaken. It is not an isolated incident. Pahalgam was used as a trigger. There is no evidence that Pahalgam was done by anybody. Even if it was done, it is to be treated in a very different way in the international system and bilateral between the two states. So it is, you have to see this abeyance in a larger construct, which is an indirect strategy which India has adopted, at least for the last 10 years, very openly. It is to isolate and weaken Pakistan. Part of this is the proxy wars which are happening in Pakistan. Part of it was economic thing, part of it was the narrative thing, the cognitive domain, put Pakistan in bad light around the world. So this was in the larger construct, things were happening, and hence abeyance of this treaty. There were, however, important thing to note that there was a discussion in India before that also. There were 2 schools of thought. One was talking about that things have changed, climate change and demography and others, and therefore there has to be a cooperative model with Pakistan on which modification of the treaty is to be done. That model is not a bad model of discussion, but the other was, which was saying right from the start, that India, more water was given to Pakistan and this treaty has been unfair to India and all. but then the policy of Mr. Modi and his government to indirectly put pressure on Pakistan or directly put pressure on Pakistan, combine this with the state action. Quickly, what is the situation on the hydro infrastructure on the western rivers, which are the rivers of concern for Pakistan? Next, please. River Indus, there are 2 projects which have been completed. The third one is proposed, and these projects have minimal storage capacity and has a minimal impact on the water flows. So therefore, these projects, Pakistan has not really talked about these projects to anybody because these fall within the treaty system. Jhelum, there are 5 projects, out of which 4 projects have been completed. The 5th project is underway. The only project which bothered Pakistan is the Kishan Ganga Dam, which is restricting the flows to a Pakistani hydro project, which is Neelam Jhelum project. Otherwise, so far, the Indian capacity or the system that they have is not to interrupt with the flows of Jhelum waters. Next, please. The real concern, the real thing is Chenab. Most of the Indian hydropower projects are concentrated here. Currently, there are 4 projects which have combined capacity. These are operationalized projects, 4 projects. They have a combined capacity of 0.376 million acre feet of storage. There are 5 projects which are under construction, and by 2029, those will be completed. Chenab-Beas link canal will divert, now this is a very serious violation, divert waters from Chenab to Beas, which is from a western river to the eastern rivers. And India has planned another 13 projects beyond 2030 or 2035. And that is the serious concern that we are talking about. So quickly, the next slide, please. The impact assessment. This is the impact assessment. They've accelerated all their projects. The cascade integration. This is the serious thing. The projects on Chenab, I'm talking about the Chenab. Now, there are a number of projects on Chenab. If one water flow is managed at one, is released in a calibrated way to the other, is managed there, and so on and so forth, when it reaches Pakistan, you almost can have total control over the flow of the water. And you can release the water according to your wish and will, and can use it for coercion, which forms a very serious threat to Pakistan's national security. Next, please. So this is by about the second last slide I have very quickly. These are the 5-pillar strategy, in my humble opinion, that Pakistan should adopt. First is obviously IWT has to be kept alive at all costs. And therefore, all international legal discourses have to be fully activated. We have to remove dependence on Indian data. That does not take responsibility from India to not provide us data, but we have to become self-reliant also by creating a hydrological intelligence cell. And I repeat again, that does not mean that India is absolved of what India is doing, which is illegal and immoral by any stretch of imagination. But we need to create our own hydrological intelligence cell. Pakistan will be able to see early, plan early, and respond early. We have to build our internal buffers, because all these have been discussed before. There are dams, there are headworks, which need to be now fast-tracked. Canal reforms, groundwater, I think Mr. Bilal Bhutto talked about it, and groundwater recharge. So this is not just the requirement because what India has done, this is the requirement of the scarcity of water, the climate change that is affecting waters in Pakistan. We have to also counter the panic. It is a serious situation, but it is not a situation of panic. And that is, we understand that what India can do with these rivers and what India cannot, what is technically possible, what is geographically, the geography that allows it, and what is not possible. India must not enjoy that psychological leverage over Pakistan. And that must be corrected in the public communication also. Last but not the least, there are red lines, and that is red lines without reckless escalation. So, but India's question is to be deterred, and the crisis is to be controlled. And we have the means to do it. Next slide, please. Next, because this is going to be. These are the three fundamental things. It is a serious threat. The buildup of the Indians on the river Chenab is a serious threat to Pakistan's national security, goes without saying. Pakistan's strongest argument is not that India can dry our rivers. The strongest argument is that an upper riparian state is trying to convert a functioning water treaty into a political punishment tool. If this becomes a precedent, it will no longer be a problem of South Asia. I thank you.